right, so welcome to the first and cordially late broadcast of Thieves Guild Games. I'm Scott, and my business
Are we
partner.
actually streaming yet? Because I'm not showing live on the.
Yeah, it's up
There it
and
is.
running.
Okay, good.
It's up and running, man. We're boomering out, so it's okay. So for people who are watching this in posterity and wonder how we got so famous, you'll be able to see this is how two Gen Xers managed to boomer their way through OBS. Super hate OBS, honestly. But yeah, a little bit of a delay. But yeah, anyway, this is our inaugural event of Thieves Guild Games' Church. I'm not sure if we're going to stick with that. We'll find out as we go along with this. It's a playful, I was telling Rich, it's a playful term on 1%er motorcycle clubs. They like to use the term church when they're having their meetings. And no, I didn't learn that from Sons of Anarchy. It's, I think it's ubiquitous internet knowledge at this point. But anyway, my name is Scott W. And again, the gentleman to my left or right, whatever you're viewing, Rich, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Rich, and I am a Gen Xer as well. But as Scott said, I am proficient in Boomer.
It wasn't so bad. It was just we associated the business email address, and for whatever reason, it freaked Google out. And I've been confirming myself for the last 45 minutes. It's outstanding. So with that, who are we? We are a small indie publisher, group of designers, and we make ostensibly we make some. We're not ever supposed to use the term best-selling, but I mean we're Electrum bestsellers and all that jazz. For I think everything we have out right now is like an Electrum bestseller or better on DriveThruRPG, and that's what we do. We definitely we design for a variety of systems. I think I started out with OSR, and Rich, you started out, your first project was with what?
Savage Worlds.
Savage Worlds? Okay.
Yeah.
And you were an ace. I think you and I have been aces about the same amount of time for Savage Worlds or Pinnacle.
You've been a little bit longer than me, but yeah.
Okay.
For a couple of years.
Oh man, yeah. So I was designing for Savage Worlds. I was surprised they gave me the ace, but and then I moved on from Savage Worlds. As I look over to my left, and my wife helped me set a bunch of bookcases with literally every box set that they've ever made from Pinnacle. But it's all right. That's all right. But yeah, we're doing a variety of games and a variety of systems. We're not just locked into it to one system. And then we have a lot of projects coming up. I know there's some questions on the latest Kickstarter for Neon Blood Year Zero. It is in the works. It's almost finished. It's just layout takes some time, and then if you haven't ever done a project, and I know Rich can attest this as well, like when you're going with the back and forth of layout, it's not quite as simple as just drop all the words, because you really need to understand. If you're not the author, you need to understand what the author's intent is for some things, especially a conversion from Neon Blood, the OSR version, to Neon Blood, the Year Zero engine version. It's there were some questions about what I meant and why I moved some things around. It's you learn a lot after you do enough books.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other part of it is most of the good designers will be watching for things like dangling bullet points. Like, do you have a single bullet point that breaks across a page or a word? It's like it's all the little things that get you.
Yeah, it really is, and the flow. And if you're not used to the layout, and Carl's a great dude. We always use Carl. He's a great dude. It's just and I asked for a little bit of whipped cream on top of the sundae this time around, because I did a dark mode again for Neon Blood, but I've also asked for the light mode as well, because I know some people really don't like the dark mode books. For me, for Cyberpunk, I'm like, I love it. That's the way to go. But I get it, especially with DriveThruRPG. Some of their print job really isn't. It kind of bleeds a little bit and gets a little wonky, I think, to read. They don't do the gloss paper or anything. But and if for those watching this, we're all in on the fans. We take feedback, I would think, really well and graciously. I love feedback. I've been interacting with someone currently on the Discord forum with one of the channels about Task Force Raven, and it's been a really fun interaction. And then that person has been inspired to try his hand at something, and so it's really cool to see that. That's one of the rewarding pieces. A lot of people are like, "Oh, there's only so much cake to go around," and then if I help anyone out, I don't get as much cake. I'm like, no, that's not true. There's limitless cake. It's just there's enough cake for everyone. Don't worry.
But is the cake a lie? That's the question.
The cake is definitely a lie. God, I need to play that game again. But that is kind of the thing in the especially in the indie scene, is like everyone gets real weirded out about sharing ideas, and that'll be something that we probably talk about down the road. Rich and I have been discussing an idea I had one day and was just slowly losing my mind, and talking about the Skunk Works, codename Skunk Works, and I wasn't sure it didn't sound ridiculous, but I think there's a way of paying back the community for all the graciousness that they show us every time we do a Kickstarter. But
absolutely.
I don't know. So where you can see examples of our work, because that's always the topic that comes in, is like, well, how do you know what you're doing? I'm like, okay, well, what have we gotten so far? I know I've got a small list, and I forget my own projects sometimes, which it sounds ridiculous. Rich, what have you put out so far on Drive-Thru?
On Drive-Thru, the thing that I've done the most recently would be the adventure deck for Savage Worlds. I've been working on a different project as well that I think we'll touch on later tonight. But yeah, an adventure deck that is completely fantasy themed is the big one
Nice.
For me.
Yeah,
I know
that's up for sale, right?
Pardon me?
That's up for sale, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, it's cards are a different beast doing cards. I've done, I think, a couple of decks, and it's just that's a different monster than people realize. Because you think like, oh, I'll just do card, and like, no, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Well, it's also because it's an adventure deck, kind of like your narrative chase deck that that you've got. You've got words, and you got a very limited amount of space.
Yeah.
And if you're doing poker-sized decks, then that's even smaller. And you got to make sure the font size is large enough to read, but you can still get all the words on that people need to be able to understand the mechanic. So that was, I think, probably one of the biggest tricks, and finding art for every single card.
Well, that's true, right? Because every card is basically a different topic. And so, you're going to want to find art to match that and not repeat anything. And, cards are amazingly difficult to do. They really are. Even just coming up with the ideas, even if you're going to let someone else do the layout, it's, Did you do your own layout for the cards?
I did. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's off.
As long as you have a good template, it's pretty easy.
No, that's fair. That
And I
is
mean,
fair.
I had the experience with the online adventure deck or the adventure card creator that I had on my website
Oh, that's
that
true,
people
yeah.
could put in their text. And so figuring that stuff out wasn't too difficult once I understood the dimensions of the card and what my margins were. So
Nice.
it's just a matter of making sure that it's got a good flow.
No, that's dope. At some point we'll probably need to have that conversation, I'm guessing, further down the road. Because one of the things that we talked about doing is doing like a designer vlogs, and I think watching cards being made, or really having that in-depth conversation about doing cards. I know a lot of people want to do cards, either a card-based RPG or just cards in general, especially if you play Savage Worlds or Free League games. But
Yeah.
Man, it's just brutal. And then what else do you have out? The Adventure Deck's the newest thing, right? Do you have anything else out on Drive-Thru? Or
No. The other projects that I had, I was working on for Savage Worlds, and then you and I started talking, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll hold off on doing this project until then. So that's why I said you've been an ace a lot longer than I have, but you've also been doing some of the other stuff a lot longer than I have been.
Oh, no.
So
that's fair.
although. Yeah, no. I mean, where a lot of my effort was in the past was I did maintain the Savage Worlds character sheet for Roll20 for a long time before that was taken over by Metamorphic, and that happened at a good time because I was just running out of time to be able to maintain that character sheet properly for it. So that's where a lot of my time spent
Nice.
previous to being an ace.
And that was the official character sheet, right? That Pinnacle used for Roll20.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
What I worked on was taken as the official, and then we updated it to make it truly official because I was maintaining it. I added in a bunch of stupid little back doors for my own game. It's like, I want this on the character sheet for me. So I would hide little cookies in there for people that wanted certain things. And when it became the official one, I'm like, okay, I probably need to take that stuff out unless you know how to use the developer console.
Nice. No, that's good. That's good. So again, when we talk about the things we've done, I mean, yeah, Rich has actually, maintained some semblance of digital control for helping Pinnacle out. I did not know that. That's awesome. That's awesome. And then he made the official digital character sheet for Neon Blood, the original OSR version, and then I just abandoned the OSR. That's not true. I didn't abandon the OSR. The OSR abandoned me. No. Yeah, it's the designs. We'll get into that. The design for choosing projects and like kind of how, especially how my brain works is, I don't know. Rich is victim to my early morning insanities and whatnot. I'm like, oh my God, I've been working on this idea and I'm making bullet points and here's this weird concept.
Now it's a matter of keeping the design ADHD under control so we can actually get through one project before we go full in on another one.
It really is. It's tough. It's tough when you get ideas and you're like, today I found an index card where I designed a game for Fate dice on just an index card. And I found it. I read it and I'm like, man, this game would really work actually. So we just slid that somewhere. But and then the other stuff you can find for us, I guess, so we don't get too far afield, on drive-through. If you search Steve's Guild Games, that's where you see, the projects, and it's there's a handful on there actually. I think right now,
OSNR, TFR.
Yeah.
Sorry, using acronyms here.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. Oubliette Sorcery and Reavers was my first game. It started out as nothing but a standard D&D 0 edition clone, like everyone else does. And then my design principles are always, I don't know, and we talked about this, is like there's always one thing that I see in gaming that I'm like, no, I dislike that, and I'm going to make it better. And for OSNR, it was magic, how magic works and how initiative works. And, put that one out. And then Neon Blood, which is OSR Cyberpunk. It has preternatural chrome, which is you turn Neon Blood into Shadowrun if you want to. And there's two ways of doing it. I included psionics and magic. So you can kind of go about it however you want, if you want true science fiction or if you want to do the old Shadowrun esque. And then, Task Force Raven, which is Task Force Raven has done a lot better than I really expected. I didn't expect as many people to take to the idea of, a book that is ostensibly, I think what was one of the negative comments I ever had about it was like steeped in jargon, military jargon. Like, the point of the
Which
game
I think it has to be for the intent of the book. It has to be.
Right, yeah. I mean, like, there's a
Now,
whole
I
social...
will say, I was one of the ones that didn't know it all. So I'm like, give me a freaking glossary at the back of it so that I can sound like I know what I'm talking about.
And there you go. I gave everyone a glossary. And even dropped some little Easter eggs in the glossary and stuff that, a buddy of mine, we did some work together forward, and he saw one of the Easter eggs, and he also games, and, he was just like, dude, that is ridiculously stupid. And I was like, yeah, but no one will know except for the handful of who have ever worked in the organization. But yeah, so that's, that went well. The narrative chase deck, which you mentioned, because I hated how chases work in Savage Worlds since the beginning. And so I decided to make a deck of cards that, made it a narrative chase. And then lo and behold, suddenly Savage Pathfinder comes out and there's a narrative chase deck in there. Okay. It is what it is. Then I did a hazard deck because I got tired of having to look up. Well, not really looking up. I always wanted to do, because I do like the 5x7 index card. Like, this is the library. Now the library is on fire and there's smoke and there's no lights. And so you can just get these little cards down on the table so everyone has this visual cue reminder of like, oh, okay, well, this room is I've got a problem, and here's all these things happening inside of it. Instead of like, people tend to forget when you're at the table, I think, that there's all this environmental effects happening. So I went with that, and it was all right. It was fun. I still, I look at it now and I have it. I'm like, oh, actually, it's kind of a clever idea.
Well, Modifius does something similar in their Dreams and Machines game, except they call them truths. And so, like, if I light the library on fire, I've added a new truth to the narrative, and now the library is on fire. And so, it's kind of interesting. And there are cards for that very reason as well, to help people remember.
Yeah. See, it's not just me who's old and need a complete memory.
Yeah, it's not a crazy idea.
Yeah, no, it's good. And then, Black Sun Dawning. That's the project I always forget because it didn't. The Kickstarter was was good, but like, it just hasn't done well, and I don't know if it's the sci-fi fantasy just isn't popular. Who knows? And that was a full.
I don't know. I like it.
I mean, yeah, we ran a whole campaign of using it and stuff. And that's really how it got started. But yeah, and there's I think that's everything that we have. So there's our bona fides. I think all of those except for Black Sun Dawning are Electrum or better bestsellers on there. So
I don't know what the adventure deck is, but yeah, I mean, adventure deck is fairly niche as well. So
yeah, that's true. That's it's too bad because I think the solid ideas that are in there, but yeah, the adventure deck is very divisive anyway in the community.
It is, which I don't get because I think it's fun to give players some control. It's like, hey, let them have fun because now they're surprising me.
Yeah, I mean, we use it. I use it when I ran Savage Eberron, and then a few other things. I don't mind it at all. I really don't care. But yeah, so there's a bona fide. So now that we've tooted our own horn and example of how great we are, we want to talk about anything we're close to revealing. I think we've got 3 projects that are in states of near completion. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair to say.
Yeah.
I think that's very fair to say.
Yeah, which is weird because it's like trying to get the timing right. You and I had this conversation constantly of like, what's the next move to just keep feeding the beast, at the end of this and make people like, oh my God, these guys are serious. I guess it's really like you switch it up. It's like, we can go from fantasy to cyberpunk to modern military, to sci-fi fantasy, back to fantasy, I think is what's happening next. So any one of them you want to talk about specifically?
The one that I shouldn't say most excited about, but as far as TGG is concerned, would be Open 6. I mean, I'm really excited about Forlorn Sea because that's the one that I've been working on for a while now.
Yeah,
it is. I mean, I've run 2 different campaigns with it, and so it keeps morphing. So it's been in the works for probably the first time I ran was probably about 10 years ago.
Jeez, you got to stop at some point. It has to stop morphing.
I do, and I'm there. I mean, I think I've got it worked out fairly well now. But when I first ran it, it wasn't with ideas of, hey, you know what, maybe I'll publish this. It was, hey, I want to run this, and I think it'll be fun. So, and it wasn't until after the second campaign that I was like, you know what, maybe I should do something with this. So. Yeah. But the one that I think is the coolest is going to be Open 6 because I think it's going to be cool to have a house system.
Oh yeah,
like I love writing. I love Savage Worlds. I love Year Zero Engine. So it's like I love those things, and I don't mind. I love writing for them.
Yeah,
but I think it'll be a lot of fun to have an in-house system as well. So
yeah, I don't disagree. I think it's intriguing, and it definitely shows design chops. I think. My biggest concern has always been my biggest concern of like it's a cool system.
Will people get it?
You just gotta play. It's one of those games where you play and you're like, you gotta let it go. You gotta let it go. We've had some interesting times, and that I think Open 6 is one of the ones we're going to be doing beta streams basically. doing live streams
Yeah.
of the rules and letting people get a feel for what it's about. One, because I think we're both pretty jazzed about it, and two, because I think seeing it in play helps out a little bit.
Yeah, and really, I hope we can get some good play testers, because I'd love to hear other people's input. I mean, I think you and I have a similar gaming style,
yeah,
and
yes,
I am completely okay with certain things, but
yeah.
if other people are not, we need to know that before we
Yeah.
put something out that people don't like.
yeah, yeah. A lot of people talk about immersion and role playing and 4D and all that jazz, and it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. Well, we have a system that's going to test that. you
Yeah.
know, it's really a simple system, but it's very interesting. I'm very excited for when we get a chance to see it open 6 and see how it works. And then you're right. We definitely need some feedback. I know we've got at least one person who wants to play test it with us.
Awesome.
And then we'll
Awesome.
do it on the air, so that'll be good. Yeah, man. I don't know. And then Forlorn Sea, if there was, I think, trying to give a good description of it. It's a fantasy arabesque setting, but with non-Tolkien species.
Right.
Is that
Yeah.
good?
That's fair. There are some analogs. It's like there are things that may be similar, but we twist them enough so that they're not. The elf is not the elf that you know. The elf is going to be there's a different species that takes the place of the elf. So there are, and then there are some unique species that you haven't seen or rarely see in other fantasy genres. So
Nice. Yeah, the elfiest elf. But I mean, there's seriously not an elf in the game. Not really. I mean, it's pretty dope. I like the arabesque nature of things. So that's
it'd be fun.
You don't see the Arabic stuff, the Coriolis and oh my God, Al-Qadim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the funny thing is when I was playing D&D back in the day, I never got into Al-Qadim. I never played it, so
Man.
it wasn't until it was I started working on this. Like I said, I ran the campaign before Coriolis, before I had even heard of Coriolis. But what really sparked the idea was a museum that I went to one time. Like, this would be really cool stuff to have in a game, and we just ran from there and had a great time with it. And then when I found about Coriolis being like Arabian Nights in space, I'm like, dude, I gotta play that game, and I love that game. It's such a fun game.
No, it's very cool.
So
that's it. Yeah, very cool. I mean, it's so much you can do with that kind of stuff. But yeah. I played Al-Qadim a couple of times, but as a player of Al-Qadim, and it's one of those things where if you don't know, you can only pretend so much. Like phone nerd knowledge only goes so far. Before it's just like, okay, cool story.
But and I think I hope that's where. So my idea with Forlorn Sea also is to provide what Savage Worlds would call a plot point campaign. So it'll be a campaign that isn't linear, can be run however you want or ignored if you want, but hopefully it'll give some ideas of ways to incorporate the aesthetic, the mythology, that sort of stuff, to make it a little bit easier to run without having to come up with everything on your own. So that's kind of my idea and the plan that I have for that setting.
No, that's cool, and I think stuff like that help. And the good thing is it's a purely fantasy setting, so you're not beholden to any real Earth or near Earth analogs. Not really. You probably for the ease of some of the stuff, a GM might be able to pull on that, but like it's very much pure fantasy. This is the setting for all the people who are like, I'm tired of elves.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's a cool setting. Just some of the imagery and stuff from it is pretty cool. It's I was sitting here when you were talking, I'm like, John Carter of Mars meets the Arabian Nights.
That's a good way of putting it, I think.
It's hard to explain like
Yeah.
like how far afield the non-Tolkien aspect is of the setting. It's slightly refreshing, you know.
Yeah.
I think everyone struggles with it. Man, and this those are the two big ones, and we've got one more, which potentially will have the most excitement built around it. I think, you know, it just
Yeah.
it just is what it is. Yeah, that will be. We're doing a. It's not a mega dungeon. I don't even know what to call it. Like a micro dungeon. That seems
It's probably a micro. I would call it more micro. It's
macro.
a little
Is
bit
it
bigger
macro
than a
dungeon?
4-room.
Yeah,
It's a little bigger than a 4-room dungeon, but not much bigger than a 4-room dungeon.
I mean, it depends. So what we're alluding to is we do have a dungeon coming out, and it's the Tomb of the Cursed Dead for Shadow Dark. Yeah,
And those that listen to us on our podcast are probably picking themselves up off the floor right now that we're doing a
course.
Shadow Dark.
yeah. I mean, we've never said it was a bad system. You know, I think it's a very interesting system. There's some clever ideas to it, and then the dungeon we've written, I think, pulls upon those clever ideas in pretty fun ways to make them really, really stand out. Yeah, and it's a super fast system, so I got it off to the side here. But yeah, that will be a fun one. Yeah, Rich is right. It's not really it has a number of rooms to it. And, you know, we're not being coy. It's just once you see it and you understand, you're like, oh, okay, this is definitely a different pace of an underworld. I think it represents the mythic underworld pretty well.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, that's why I try to
Kind of lean
capture that.
into it.
Yeah, just, you know, with some of the things that I was using for inspiration, and then going through it was like, okay, cool, you know. And then you got to the point of like, what's the point of this dungeon? You know, am I trying to Tomb of Horrors people? No, not really. But it's going to feel that way a little bit at first until you realize what's happening. And then you start having the no kidding role. Because it's a dungeon that asks you to role play, I think, a little bit. So, which is a little different than what we see. But yeah, those are the three big ones. I don't think we can really say when those are coming out. Neon Blood Year Zero needs to get at least in PDF form to the backers and then on the street to start making money as a PDF, and then you know, because first two people are tracking, you know, you kind of fulfill the PDF side first because that's the fastest, because the print side, and you know, now I don't know how long it's going to take to do the printing through drive-through, but we got things in motion. I think we're not going to be using drive-through probably for our primary source much longer, I don't think. Hopefully we can do some, you know, at-home printing, not off our printers, but yeah, in America, make things a little bit easier, and then make the timeline might be a little bit faster too. Because that's the worst part about it, is it takes so long to get the proofs, and if there's anything wrong with the proof, you're backed up weeks just waiting for more proofs. I had that happen once. It was with Neon Blood originally. Some of the art was not actually coming through based on I guess the art file itself was, you know, when you're doing layout, a lot of folks will keep the art separate from the file, and so not all of that will come in and be ingested into the final product. And so it was missing guns of all the things, missing images of guns. It's super handy in a cyberpunk game to have pictures of guns. But yeah, we're trying to do that. But yeah, I think after Neon Blood I think I'm comfortable, and people can tell is like, no, we're not comfortable with that. But like, I'm comfortable with the PDF being in hand to the backers, and we know that the prints are on their way through proofing. I think I'm comfortable probably putting out the next product. I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
No, I agree. I think once we have everything in, then it's just a matter of fulfillment, and that can happen while we're doing other stuff. So I completely agree with that.
Okay. Yeah, it's really weird, because it's like I feel bad because, you know, I bounce ideas with my wife, and she's like, you know, kind of what the concern is. I'm like, well, the concern is, you know, you don't do this out of just free will, free nature. There was an article recently where this guy was like, every RPG should be designed in Creative Commons and given away for free. I'm like, oh, sure, Jan. That's not how it works. But also, you know, it's like the concern is like, oh, your audience who are like your true diehard fans who, you know, because I have people who back every Kickstarter, and it's like you don't want to feel like you're cheapening that experience for them, or you're just trying to overwhelm them with stuff. And it's just like, no, I want to respect their time, and their money is, you know, their money, and so that's my biggest concern, is looking like shills or, you know, some way, shape, or form. And it's like, no. Man, I literally have a list of, I think, 17 or 18 game ideas that we really need to get through.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes. There's a list, and we'll get there.
Yeah. I mean, it'll take a while. And some of them are really tough. Cause,
I think the hard part will be for us getting patient enough to let things bake properly and not rushing it.
Yeah. No, that's definitely a truism. And it's just tough because some of the ideas, you know, when you're looking at them, it's like, you know,
get excited about it.
Yeah, it's just like, dude, this would be really fun to play.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. I don't know. We probably shouldn't. I think that's a good point for our projects. There are definitely other things in the work. There's definitely a lot in the work. At least ideas and some outlines and bullet points. I think that's a big one. I just got to stop thinking. I got to stop watching YouTube videos about the hobby and getting annoyed and being like, nope, I can fix that and I can show you how. And then, you know, 5 hours later, I've got a working thesis on, you know, a new game system. I can say that I think we should talk about too. We'll be designing for, oh my God, I'm old. Dragonbane. We also have a campaign setting in mind for Dragonbane. That
I really want to get to that.
I know, man. I think that one is in our hearts because of how we came up playing AD&D and everything. Yeah. It's that should be heartwarming. That's gonna be amazing. That will be amazing. Yeah. That's gonna be
especially if we can get the artist that we want. Because I mean, that art that you found for that, I think was awesome as well. So
perfect. And if they can capture and meld their style with, like, you know, the ideas, chef's kiss. Yeah, totally easy. But man, besides the projects, and we're just hammering away. And, you know, I told one today, like, I need to sit down and start writing again. I need to start getting everything into, you know, Affinity. I'm going to be that person who, I realize writing in one thing and then putting it into Affinity is, oh my God, problematic. That is, you're Rich is my champion right now. He is doing layout for one of the projects. And I started putting Open6 into Affinity, and I just wanted to scratch my face off. I was like, man. Yeah. The good news is I have such prominent, like, OCD when I write, and if you probably noticed that when how I write, like, shit will end on a page, and I don't go over a page. I don't bleed off on a page. Like, I will truncate my, you know, the prose to where everything will go on a page.
What may help you with well, we'll talk about that offline.
Yeah, it's fine. That's fine. There's a lot to it, but yes, gotta do that. I don't know what's the big stuff we have coming up besides all these, you know, projects. This November, it's not really Veterans Day. It's going to be the 7th, 8th, and 9th in Charlotte, North Carolina at MythicCon. If you're in the area or if you've never been to a con, MythicCon's a really good one to go to. The crowd's not too big. Plus, it's in Charlotte. Oh, God, I coughed on mic. That's my bad. I thought I had it muted.
It was mostly muted.
Oh, thanks. But that's a good one. We'll be down there, not just playing games. I tend to run games, and I run... I usually run 16 hours. Well, I think I run 3 or 4 games. You know, I do 4-hour games. I used to do big blocks of like 6 people, and I don't think that's going to happen anymore. As I get older, my patience has gotten less and less for 6 people, and it's just like, no, we're down with that. I think 4 people I'm going to do, and also it allows me to have seats open in case there's people who don't have a game. I've been asked that before while I'm down there. I used to be a regular every year. And then living in Japan for a couple of years kind of broke that. unfortunately. But yeah, there's always people who don't have a game to go to because they couldn't register for anything, and some of the event coordinators will swing by and they're like, "Hey, do you have an opening?" And but yeah, slide them in. Who cares, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll do that, and I think we're gonna test, probably running tests of products. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Probably the smartest. We'll have some books down there and stuff. So that'll be a big one.
Well, the exciting part for me with that is this will be my first real con. I went to one other one, but it wasn't really a con.
It was amazing. What are you talking about?
So this will be my first real con experience, and it'll be my first time actually running a game at a con. So a little nervous. Come on out and watch me make a fool of myself. You know?
You'll be fine, man. That's the coolest thing about it is GMs are in such short order that everyone is so grateful to play, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not saying, you know, I've played with you before, so Rich is fine. There are people where, yeah, I played DCC and it was one of the most boring games I've ever played in my life, and that makes me sad to say in my heart. You got to try real hard to make Dungeon Crawl Classics boring. They're just how it is.
Yeah.
And then, you know, sometimes it gets spicy, especially if you play later, because some of the games are run to midnight. And then Saturday night is always the Savage Worlds has like Savage Saturday nights, and they put everyone in one hall because it gets so loud with Savage Worlds players. If you've never played Savage Worlds, it's a sight to behold because everyone's screaming and throwing bennies, and you know the initiative system.
Well, exploding dice and critical failures.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, and it's like it's this. You got Deadlands on one table and Rifts on another table, and you know Deadlands they're hooting and hollering and got pop caps and whatnot, and then the Rift players have these giant. One of the GMs who shows up, he's big dioramas with all these weird monsters and stuff. Yeah. And then I'm super loud normally anyway, and super animated and standing on chairs, and it's just the Savage Saturday night is always a good time. And then you usually see Clint and Shane and Jody are usually there. They usually show up. That's right around Clint and Jody's neck of the woods. So, but yeah, that'll be a fun one. And then I don't know. Every Wednesday, I think we're gonna have the church. I think we talked about that. We'd like to do regular stuff, and every week won't be just us doing this. We've already got some of the things. I think, you know, looking at like how we. I think the big ones with the things what interest me is not like just product reviews. Anyone can do that, but it's like how do you actually make an RPG? I get asked that a lot, and you start talking about it without showing work or kind of helping people out. I think it falls flat, but I think that's a pretty interesting topic of like how do you even get an idea for an RPG? Or, you know, how do you use inspiration, things like that. And so week by week we'll do these topics, and then every once in a while we'll switch it up and we'll do some live play, which is always interesting. I ran a few live games, and that is when I was my most nervous. When I was
my son asked me if we were going to be streaming a game tonight. I'm like, nah, not tonight.
Not tonight. Maybe in 2 weeks. I think 2 weeks is to be a good time. What does he want to try to play?
Oh, he wouldn't mind. I mean, this is Oren, so you've played with Oren before.
Yeah.
He's my son who streams video games, and he hams it up for the video games. Like he plays horror games, and my wife and I would sit there and just laugh because we'd hear him screaming in the basement. I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Man, you got it. It's entertainment. You know. Yeah, I was going over the. You never read the comments, but I went back and I always look at the comments on. You know, when I was running the Mummy's Mask, and it's heartwarming to see like no negatives. You know, comments and like. You know, like I said, though, I was really, you know, I was fine with it until you're looking down and, you know, how we were doing it, and I could see the viewer count, and I was just like, oh my God, that's thousands of people. Like, Jesus. Oh, man. Then you just get over it because you're like, oh, I've got work to do. I got 6 people to entertain, and make sure they have a great time for the next 4 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, man, but it's a good time. People doing that, and then I don't know, like designer vlogs, live streams, kind of going over where we are with things. I don't know. Who knows? We'll go crazy. I'll grow hair. Who knows?
Will you though? Will you?
No. I tell you, well, when I was younger, I had super long hair, and I was hair arrogant, and God took all of my hair. I've been punished. Well,
I may be doing what you're doing because my hair is getting to the point where I'm like, yeah, I probably just need to shave it, but I can't do that without growing my beard back. So.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, yeah. The beard was a surprise when I got the medical clearance to grow a beard. So just for posterity's sake, I'm on the road to retirement as of technically tomorrow morning. From the Navy, I'm retiring in about 3 months. But last month I got a sudden skin condition from my medical doctor, and he signed off on growing the beard out. And then it all started coming in like super gray, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm so old. What happened? What happened? My wife is always like, oh, you could. I was like, I'm not dyeing my beard.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's like the remnants of like ginger. And it's just crazy. But yeah, it's not bad. I don't know. Other than that, watch this. Come to the Discord. You can find our Discord. It's on the YouTube channel in the About section, and then it's also at the. I think I put it in every product that we have up on Drive-Thru. It's always at the end. It's an invite. It's set up, but it's not like hyperactive or anything. So if you're one of those people who don't need to add into their Discord, that's going to kill your free time. Don't worry about it. But there are people who ask some questions, and people usually will come in and find like the game channel where they and ask questions and bounce ideas off there. And still, that's once in a blue moon, but that's definitely a good place to interact with us. There's also an email address connected to the channel. You can send us email queries there and get a couple of them every once in a while.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah.
Don't be strangers.
Yeah, please don't be strangers.
Just come out.
Yeah, that's the big thing with this is, the term community gets bandied about so much, but it's just like, it's not really about a community. It's just about people who share a hobby, And
yeah.
That's why I design games. It's like, I understand artists. I understand the need to get something out. You want to get the muses, they just punish you, it seems like, until you can get everything down and out of your system. And so it's like, cool. Games are a way that I dealt with, just being young and, being a kid and then being in the military and stuff. And so it's like, cool, I want to give back to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else for the first one? Try to keep this one tame.
Nah, I can't think of anything else. I think the next ones coming up are the ones that I'm going to be excited about because it's more than just, hey, listen to us talk about ourselves.
Right, yeah, more than just introductions. Yeah, it's always a weird one.
Yeah.
Like, who are we? That's right. Oh, I got to put the thumbnail up. I forgot to do that. Oh, I'm so dumb. That's all right. I'll change the thumbnail now after this. I'll be able to edit it. But yeah, come in, let us know anything. There's, it's a pretty normal group of people. If you want to play test with us, let us know that too. I don't have any problems with, total randoms coming into things. I have a good time with that.
Yeah. The more ideas we get from people, the better we can make things as well. It's like, when you as a writer, that's one thing that I've grown to really like. Because like when you start out, you don't like getting criticized for what you've written because what you wrote is awesome.
It's your
baby. But after you go through that process, you're like, okay, you know what? That really wasn't awesome. And the feedback from others of what's working and what's not it's awesome. I love getting the feedback so that I can see where my thinking may be misaligned with what other people are expecting or where I'm unclear, where I need to maybe tweak my ideas.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff is vital to any creative endeavor.
Yeah, 100%. It's crazy, and I think And this will be part of a larger discussion of like, because I still have this with myself of like, what if I tell you my ideas, then you're going to steal them? And it's just like, no, that's crazy. Like, it's even if me and someone else had the same idea, we're still using this different voice, different tone. You know, the communication piece is key to so I don't know. Other than that, I think that's everything. Yeah, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
You good? This is great. I can't wait to see this grow and all the excitement. And then turn off comment.
Yeah.
No, I've been doing YouTube videos far too long. I've got most of them hidden on my other channel, but yeah, I've been doing this 15 years, I think. Back when you could do video replies. I don't know why they took that feature away. It was so much fun. That's how the YouTube RPG Brigade got along. That's how we all met each other. Really, was just doing video replies to each VRs. And you're like, oh, you think 3D6 straight down the line is good? Well, I'll tell you what, buddy. I don't have anything else. We will see everyone next week, the same time, which is 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central. Do the math for the rest of yourselves. I'm not a mathlete. I'm a word nerd. But yeah, other than that, Rich, anything before we head out?
Nope. Have a great week, and hope to see you in church next week.
Same.
Or whatever we decide to call it if we change it.
That's true. I like church. We'll figure it out. All right, everyone. Take care.